Stories of an Aircraft Builder. The year 2009 from a different perspective. I think it might be interesting to find out how others talk about things here who are still relatively unbiased in their approach. Over the years there have been many people who have sought contact with me because they were also concerned with the subject. Most of them have come and gone, but some have stayed in contact with me, and friendships have naturally developed. A very special friendship has developed between Gerry Mos and myself. I had been in contact with Gerry via the internet long before 2009, also via the Aerodrome forum, but now he wanted to come and see me in person to discuss things that had previously been discussed in theory in relation to my museum dream. He came and stayed in our lives. His first visit took place in July 2009, and he wrote a personal account of his experience, which I would like to read to you today, as it also gives an insight, albeit a vague one, into my daily routine. From then on, Gerry came every year, and the following year, 2010, he even came for 3 months at a time. He spent his entire vacation with me just to build airplanes together with me and to relive a bit of that time. He also took part in 2010 and the beginning of the decline and experienced all the devastating experiences that followed as a close confidant. Today, however, he will tell you in his own words, through my voice, how he experienced his visit to Engels Aeroplanbau and the Engels in general. The last consistently beautiful year through the eyes of a new friend and a man who contributed a great deal to other projects in the years to come. 2009 Visit to Achim's workshop. My trip started with a flight to Stuttgart Airport, then a subway ride to Schorndorf. How was anyone going to recognize me? I've never seen them before. Alexandra, Achim's partner, was told to look for a big red suitcase and a person looking lost. Well, that was me. Schorndorf was having a vintage car and bike show in which Achim had a few of both on display. Achim asked if I had a driver's license, and yes, so I was given the keys to a nice red Kadett to drive back to the workshop. What? Where? Just follow Alexandra, he said. What he didn't say was that the car did not idle well and need the choke to be kept going on. After a few false starts and stops, I go there. As this was the first couple of hours, then the 2 weeks were going to be very interesting indeed. The workshop was an Aladdin's cave of beautiful aircraft and other interesting things. Achim took me on a tour to explain what and why. This was very encouraging, despite only having met them for a few hours. His dream was for a museum to show people how and what made up World War I German aircraft. He had a few planes undergoing construction, and it was so inspirational. He would have loved to have an airfield where the planes could fly as well as be open to the public. The museum would focus on technology up to 1920, targeted at aircraft. To help present this venture, Achim and I talked about the virtual museum using a computer simulation to allow people to experience what the museum might be like. I have accepted taking on this project and will start a test simulation very soon using Achim's Halle 2 at Schorndorf. I have already created a few buildings but have a lot to do to complete the work. To assist me, Achim has provided me with original and copied information from official sources of the building plans and some related documents. He has even managed to obtain plans of the office building Fokker used in Schwerin. Some of these documents are original and a testimony to Achim's ability to seek and discover the facts. The same attention to the facts is employed for the aircraft and their construction and testing. So, he is setting a very high standard. The aircraft Achim built are not Fokker, but Engels aircraft, built according to Fokker specifications and plans. He stamps each component with his logo to make sure people understand it is not an original Fokker part. So we discussed what sort of work I could do and agreed that the 7 fuselage load test would be my focus for the first week. So the following day I set to designing the load test stands and supports. The test was an extreme one to enable the aircraft to be certified as an aerobatics plane. So it needed to be capable of withstand +6 and -3 G loads. Test, also static, would place the airframe under an 11 G loading, so the test structures needed to be very strong. Especially the engine load structure to withstand 1950 kilograms of weight in a relatively small area. We had already discounted sandbags as a suitable load for the engine area, as 1950 kilograms of sand would present a huge volume and not easily managed. We opted for concrete blocks weighing between 33 and 46 kilograms each. Even this constituted a considerable volume. Anyone seeing the pictures and videos would agree. The structures were designed in a day and the material purchased and the work began. Within a couple of days the structures were completed and the items test installed. It all looked fine and the date of the test was set for the following Monday, weather permitting. Didn't want to do the test in the rain for 2 reasons. Not pleasant for either people or the plane, and also because the concrete blocks would gain up to 2 kilograms each by absorbing water. The jigs were named the Coffin and Hercules Pillars. Good to give things names. We spent a full day measuring and loading the sandbags and concrete blocks for the test. It was a heavy day indeed. Even so, we still managed to have some fun and enjoy the bikes and the barbecue. The rest of the first week was taken up with building ribs with Shirley in the bunker and working out minor issues with the bikes, cleaning the carburetor on one, to find the cork float had been attacked by the fuel as its protective varnish coating was damaged. Another bike, the DKW sidecar, was also worked on to get it to run, which it did for a while but died after 10 minutes. No amount of kicking would make it go again that entire day. One of the many great things was the variety of work to do. Wood, metal, machining, pressing, designing, problem solving, engines, bikes, cars, and generally just having a lot of fun. This made for a very relaxed and interesting workplace. Schedules and timekeeping not an issue. That is not to say that there is no schedule, but an overall outline plan. There are also lots of other interesting projects going on in the background that contribute to the overall building of the planes, like the colors for the printed fabric, the different fabric types, bleached and unbleached, the paint finishes. All these things and many more are tried and compared to original photos, reports, and historic reference material. No detail is too small to achieve the overall authentic build of a Fokker aircraft. All items are subjected to some form of test, be it load or destructive tests. The purpose is to be sure the components will not fail in flight and to understand the logic of why and how the design was determined. I can say that I'm very surprised about the loading capabilities of these structures. The structure is light, yet very strong, perfect for aircraft operations. We also went over many Fokker photos and looked at how the tests were undertaken and the sheer number of tests undertaken. This shows without doubt that Fokker took structural integrity very seriously. The historical records support the view that it was not design failure but material and poor execution of building that caused issues with the Fokker aircraft and operational duties. The end of the first week, well, didn't end. The Saturday we were off to a car and bike show at the nearby museum. Had a great day looking at old vehicles and machinery. Even saw an example of my very first car, the Fiat 124 Sports, in a reasonable condition considering its age. The Sunday was out to the airfield where his Ermaki MB308 is parked. This is a very nice vintage aircraft, an early production example in original condition, not accounting for tires, etc. But the aircraft had a problem. The brake master cylinder was leaking and needed to be fixed before the aircraft could fly. So we spent time taking the cylinders out and pulling it apart, finding a much worn seal and corrosion on the inner surface of the cylinder. Now you just can't go down to your local hydraulics shop, if it existed, and pick up a 1946 brake cylinder. So we had to get creative. The following day in the workshop we worked out some options and began fixing the cylinder. All part of the variety of work, problem solving and engineering. The day of the test arrived, sunny and with a lot of uneasy feeling. Would the airframe stand the load? What is going to happen? The atmosphere was tense all day, building up the test in the late afternoon. For those following Achim's work, you'll have seen the pictures and video. That was a huge step forward and a great achievement. The test was completely successful and no damage was done to the fuselage. So back to the workshop and more building. Ribs for the DR1. Some abnormal, crazy and tip ribs for the middle wing. Why the names? Well, the abnormal ribs have a deeper profile to clear the spar stringers, upper and lower. The crazy ribs? Well, because they are just crazy. Short inboard ribs with a twisted rear section to clear the strut. These had to be built from nothing. There are no rib drawings, no jigs or examples. That was a lesson in building from one Fokker plan of the middle wing and 2 Fokker photos. Much discussion and consideration were undertaken before the rib web template was designed and built, followed up by the rib jig. One critical part of this rib is the sharp curves on the web cap strip. There are 2 different methods to making wood bend. Steamed with water or a dry method. Achim has perfected the dry method. I'd call it the toasting method, because you place the wooden item on a hot plate toasting it while applying a bending load to shape the wood. This takes skill and some patience. My first attempt failed with a crack of wood and a broken cap strip. But more time and practice enabled me to produce a bent bit of wood that was usable. Another case of Achim looking for ways to do things that is both productive and workable while staying within the historic context. If you use the steam method, the wood needs to dry overnight before you can use it, and would require a drying jig to hold the wood in shape while it dries. More time, more jigs, and a slower process. So not only did I learn to build templates, but also jigs and constructing ribs from the beginning. I'm still no expert, but I can build a nice crisp rib. We did go back to the airfield during the week to fit the modified brake cylinder, but came across another problem. The inlet pipe had a leak which turned out to be a collapsed olive, which would normally seal the fitting. So back to the workshop to design a replacement. Again, the fittings are nothing like modern ones and thus not easy to find. Also, we discovered that the pipe was inserted into the structure with only enough clearance to accommodate the pipe and not the fittings. It is almost if the aircraft was built around the pipes. Other pipes were done the same way. This will present some problems for the plane's restoration in the future. Back to the workshop and into more building. I also had another go at the DKW sidecar and again managed to get it to run, but only for 15 minutes. Something is not right. I suspect the condenser or something electrical. As with the first time, no further kicking would make it start. The last weekend, again back to the airfield to try the modifications and to get the brakes to work. We managed to reduce the leaks to an acceptable level, but the brake cylinder couldn't maintain enough pressure to operate the brakes, so it was back to a new approach. Can we fit a more modern cylinder from an older car to get serviceable brakes? A hunt on the internet discovered several possible options. Achim will explore over the following week or so. Andrea Rosetto flew in from Italy with his MB308 and the 2 planes enjoyed a couple of days together. We're expecting little ones in about 12 months. Towards the last few days, The pace of work increased as I improved my understanding of rib building. One of the last items I put together was the tip rib gussets. The photos show some wood buried under a sea of clams, but they didn't work as intended. However, a solution was found and the gussets glued the morning I left. Achim, did they work? Gerry, they did. So, what did I discover and learn from my visit? First off, have fun while working. Talking about things, interaction between English and German was funny enough. My German is, well, zero, only learned stuff from Hogan's Heroes and a few audio tapes. Shirley, while being from the USA, had great German. So much fun talking about words and their meanings. It is great to have like-minded people working together. The chemistry just works. Does anyone remember this set of words? Achtung! Alles Touristen und non-technischen Lokenpapers, das Maschine ist nicht vor de Finger poken und mitten krabben. Is easy schnappen der Springenwerk, Blowfusen und Popenkorken mit spitzen Sparken. Das Maschine ist diggen bei Experten only, is nicht für Gewerken bei das Dummkoffen. Das Rubberneggen, Sightseeren, keppen das Kotten, picken Hands in das Pocket, relaxen und watchen das Blinkenlights. I used to have this in my last Air Force workshop, to keep visitors from finger-poking, but they still did. Achim, Alexandra, Yannick and Finn are all great, happy and open, willing to share and encourage others to see what they are doing is both worthwhile and useful. The kids are plain mad, just can't understand why. Shirley is also very helpful and has a huge level of skill and is having just as much fun as is possible. The work is meticulous and well executed. However, everything is done with a fun factor. During my stay, the bunker was renamed the Funker, because we were having so much fun working downstairs in the woodshop. Now, there are few jobs in the world that allow you to say you had fun at work. I've been lucky enough to have been in such a place within Achim's workshop. My skills seemed to fit. Bikes, planes and some design work. Even fixed Achim's computer as well. It was having trouble staying awake for more than 1 hour. I enjoyed my visit so much I didn't want to leave. But hey, I can always come back. I learned some new skills, answered some questions about structures, and it showed me how little I understood of Fokker's way and how Achim is recreating them using historic information. The time spent made me realize that this was a very worthwhile venture, and the people were without doubt great. Achim has a dream that is worth chasing and will in time provide an educational facility second to none anywhere. He has my full support and I'll be working with him as much as I can to see the dream achieved. As part of this, I would be giving him a copy of my archive, which has been collected over several decades. The joining of his and mine would take some time, but would make for a great research source for us and others. Who else wants to join in on this dream? After all, it is good to dream, to reach for things outside.